If I told you my brother threw trash at my feet on Christmas night and told my little girl we didn't belong in the family, you might think that was the worst part. It wasn't. The worst part was that everyone else at the table acted like it made perfect sense. My name is Grace Carter. I'm 32 years old, a single mom, and until last year I was still trying, still stupidly hoping that if I showed up enough times, loved hard enough, apologized for taking up space, my family would finally see me as one of them. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the Christmas that cured me of that hope. I should have known the evening was going to go wrong the moment Lily and I pulled into the driveway. The house looked like something off a postcard. White lights trimmed along the roof, wreaths in every window, smoke curling from the chimney like it had been hired for atmosphere. You could almost hear the commercial voiceover. Come experience the magic of the Carter family Christmas. Inside that magic, though, I knew my role. I was the warning label. Lily leaned forward between the seats, eyes shining. "It's so pretty," she whispered, like we were arriving at a castle instead of the place where most of my childhood wounds still lived rent-free in my head. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "It is." I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Calm, pleasant, small. I had spent my whole life mastering small. "Remember," I told myself as much as her, "we're just here for dinner." I grabbed the pie I brought store-bought because I'd learned years ago that if I cooked, it would somehow be wrong, and took Lily's hand. She squeezed back, trusting me the way kids do, like mothers can make places safe just by standing in them. I prayed she was right. The door swung open before we knocked. My sister, Hannah, stood there in matching holiday pajamas, phone already in her hand, recording something for her followers. "Oh," she said, surprise flickering across her face before it smoothed into a tight smile. "You came." Camey, like I was an unexpected storm. "Of course," I said lightly. "It's Christmas." She stepped aside, and the warmth hit us: cinnamon, pine, roasted meat, the sound of laughter. For a second, a dangerous second, I thought maybe tonight would be different. Maybe they were tired of fighting. Maybe Lily would get the grandmother everyone else seemed to have. Maybe. Jake was at the head of the table, already holding court, halfway through some story that made everyone laugh too loudly. Mom moved between the kitchen and dining room, glowing in that way she did when people were watching. When she noticed me, she paused, not happy, not angry, just calculating. "Grace," she said, like my name required effort. Her eyes dropped to Lily. "You brought her." I swallowed. "Yeah, she's family." It hung there between us, that word, family. Mom gave a thin smile and went back to the gravy like the conversation bored her. We took 2 seats near the end of the table. No one had set places for us. I told myself it was an oversight. Lily sat very straight, hands folded in her lap, trying so hard to be good, to deserve oxygen. Dinner moved around us rather than with us. Conversations overlapped, jokes flew, wine poured. Every time I tried to enter a thread, it closed like a door in my face. I watched Lily shrink inch by inch. I should have left then. But hope is a stubborn, humiliating thing. Halfway through the meal, Jake pushed back his chair. I remember that sound with terrifying clarity, the scrape of wood on tile. My body reacted before my brain did. Old instinct, incoming. He walked out toward the mudroom without a word. A few people exchanged looks. My sister hid a smile behind her glass. And then he came back carrying 2 huge black trash bags. At first, I didn't understand. My mind tried to make it funny. A prank, maybe. Decorations. Something normal people would do. He didn't smile. He swung. The first bag hit my shin with a dull thud, bursting a spray of melting snow and dirt onto my jeans. The second landed at my feet and tipped over like punctuation. The table went silent. Not shocked. Expectant. Jake looked at me the way someone looks at an object left in the wrong place. "Thought you might want to take this out on your way," he said casually. Then, clearer, louder, so everyone could hear, "You're not family anymore. You and that kid don't belong here." A few gasps. A few stifled laughs. Forks paused midair. Behind me, I felt Lily flinch. Her fingers dug into my sweater. I waited. I waited for anyone to say that's enough. My mother stood instead. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She rose like a judge about to deliver something official. Her gaze slid over me and settled on Lily. She doesn't belong here either, Mom said, each word neat and sharp. She's just a reminder of your mistakes. Something hot and ancient tore through my chest. But here's the part that still wakes me up at night. No one argued. My sister leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and laughed under her breath. "Seriously, Grace," she said. "Sit down, eat, and get out before you ruin the holiday like you ruin everything." Someone muttered, "Be grateful we even let you in." And then, like magic, like choreography, the silverware started moving again. Conversation resumed. I had become background noise. I looked at my daughter, at the way she tried not to cry because she thought it would make things worse. And I felt something inside me shift, not break, lock. I picked up her backpack. I stepped around the trash. I looked my brother straight in the eye. "Thanks," I said calmly. "I'll remember this." He smirked. He thought he'd won. I took Lily's hand, turned my back on the table, and walked toward the door. I didn't scream. I didn't slam anything. I gave them nothing dramatic to feed on. But I felt it, like electricity in the air behind me. They were afraid of my quiet. Outside, the cold wrapped around us. Lily's voice shook. "Mom," she whispered, "are we in trouble?" I squeezed her hand, and even though my heart was breaking open, my answer came out steady. "No," I told her. "They are." Lily kept holding my hand all the way to the car, like if she let go, I might disappear. I could still feel the warmth of the house behind us, the glow of the lights in the windows, the muffled laughter leaking out into the cold night air, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if a man hadn't just thrown trash at his sister, as if a grandmother hadn't called a child a mistake. My legs moved on their own, stiff and mechanical, crunching over the gravel. I unlocked the car, opened the back door, and helped Lily climb in. My fingers fumbled with the buckle twice before it finally clicked. She watched me carefully. Children always know when something big is happening, even if they don't have the language for it yet. I shut her door and walked around to the driver's seat, the cold biting through my coat, my ears ringing with words I had spent my entire life trying to outrun. "You ruin everything. Be grateful we let you in. Reminder of your mistakes." I sat down and gripped the steering wheel. For a moment, I didn't start the engine. For a moment, I almost turned back. Because walking away from them meant letting go of the smallest, most pathetic hope that maybe next year would be kinder. Maybe next year they'd look at Lily and see her, not me. Hope can be addictive like that. It keeps you coming back to places that break you. I closed my eyes. Then I looked in the rearview mirror. Lily's reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed, confused, trying so hard to be brave because she thought that was her job now, to make it easier for me. And something inside me hardened. No more. I turned the key in the ignition. The engine coughed awake, loud in the quiet driveway, and I pulled away from the house without looking back. But I felt it shrinking behind me, the perfect wreath, the perfect lights, the perfect lie. "Mom?" Lily's voice was small from the back seat. "Yeah, baby? Are they mad at us?" I swallowed. My throat felt lined with glass. "No," I said carefully. "They're mad at themselves. They just don't know it yet." She thought about that. Kids always do. They turn your words over like stones, checking for truth underneath. "Do they hate us?" she asked. There it was. The question I had been dodging my whole life, just in different shapes. I pulled to a stop at the end of the road because I couldn't drive and breathe at the same time. "They don't hate you," I said finally. "They don't even know you. And they don't get to decide who we are." Her shoulders loosened a little, not all the way, but enough. "Where are we going?" she asked. "A hotel tonight," I answered. "And tomorrow, we start building something they can't touch." I didn't know exactly what that meant yet, but I knew it was true. By the time we reached the highway, my phone started buzzing in the cup holder. I already knew who it was. Claire. She had texted earlier in the evening. "How's Christmas at the farm? Surviving?" I let it ring once more before I picked up, because I needed my voice steady. Claire could hear a crack in a soul from 3 states away. "Hey," she said. "You okay?" I laughed, short and empty. Define okay. And then the words came out. Fast, flat, clinical. Like if I told it without emotion, it would hurt less. I told her about the trash bags, about Jake's voice, about my mother looking straight at Lily and calling her a mistake, about the laughter, the way dinner resumed like I was an intermission act. Claire didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was silence on the line, heavy and furious. "Grace," she said finally, "that's abuse. They just wrapped it in Christmas lights." I opened my mouth to defend them out of habit. They didn't mean it. That's just how they are. It's my fault for going. But then I saw Lily in the mirror again, and the excuses died. "They did mean it," I whispered. Claire exhaled slowly. "Tell me you didn't walk out empty-handed," she said. I blinked. Then I remembered, when Lily and I had stepped into the house earlier that night, something in my gut had twisted. Not fear exactly. Recognition. Like my body knew the script, even if my brain wanted a rewrite. So, I had done something small and desperate. I had opened my phone, and I had pressed record. "I have it," I said. "All of it?" "Yeah." "Good." Not gentle, not shocked, just certain. "Because if they want to treat you and your kid like trash," Claire continued, "then maybe it's time someone opens the bag and shows the world what's inside." My stomach turned. The thought of anyone seeing that moment made my skin crawl. My humiliation, Lily's face. But then another thought rose higher than the shame. Proof. For years, they had rewritten reality. Told me I was dramatic, too sensitive, misremembering. Lucky they tolerated me at all. But video doesn't lie. "You don't have to do anything tonight," Claire said, softer now. "Just don't delete it." I glanced at Lily, who was leaning her forehead against the window, watching the dark blur past. "I won't," I promised. And for the first time in my adult life, keeping something felt more powerful than forgiving it. We pulled into the parking lot of a cheap roadside motel 20 minutes later. The vacancy sign flickered like it wasn't sure about us either. I parked and turned off the engine. Neither of us moved. I could feel the weight of the future sitting between us, enormous and unfinished. Claire spoke again, careful, strategic. "You know what matters most to them, right?" I did. The farm, the brand, the image of wholesome, loving family tradition. They had built their entire identity on it. People drove for miles to take photos under those lights. "They guard that reputation like it's oxygen," Claire said. "So if you ever decide to fight back, that's where you go." I stared at my phone resting dark in my hand. Jake frozen mid-throw somewhere inside it. My mother's voice preserved forever. For the first time, the balance didn't feel completely hopeless. For the first time, I had something they couldn't laugh away. I wasn't just hurt. I was done. And being done is a dangerous, clarifying thing. I opened the car door, and the cold rushed in again, sharp and real. "Come on, kiddo," I said gently. "Let's get some sleep." As I helped Lily out, she wrapped her arms around my waist and held on tight. "We're still a family, right?" she asked. I knelt and kissed her hair. "We're the best one," I told her. And as we walked toward the dim lobby lights, I made a promise I had never been brave enough to make before. They would never do that to us again, no matter what it cost. Lily fell asleep almost the second her head touched the motel pillow. Kids can do that. They can cry in the parking lot of their old lives and still drift off 10 minutes later because somewhere inside them, they believe tomorrow might be kinder. I envied that kind of faith. I used to have it too. The heater rattled like it had asthma, pushing out warm air that smelled faintly of dust and old carpet. Cartoon light flickered blue across Lily's cheeks. I stood there for a while, just watching her breathe, counting the seconds between each rise and fall, letting the rhythm slow, the panic still racing under my skin. I had kept my promise. I hadn't deleted the video. My phone felt heavy in my hand, like it contained something radioactive. Proof, memory, a version of the truth they would never be able to polish into something prettier. I sat down at the tiny desk by the window, opened my laptop, and plugged the phone in before I could lose my nerve. The file popped onto the screen. For a moment, I just stared at the thumbnail. Jake's arm caught mid-swing. The black plastic stretched tight. My body half turned, already bracing. I press play. There's something uniquely horrifying about watching yourself be humiliated. It's like standing outside your own skin, wanting to run in and protect that woman, wanting to shout, "Leave, don't stay, don't try again," but you already know what she's going to do because she's always done it. The sound came first, the thud of the bags, a fork clattering, someone choking back a laugh. Then Jake's voice. Calm, amused, lethal. "You're not family anymore. You and that kid don't belong here." I paused the video. My stomach rolled, bile rising hot and furious. I glanced at Lily, still asleep. Good. I lowered the volume and forced myself to keep watching. Mom standing up. That slow, deliberate way she claimed authority. Her eyes landing on Lily like she was inventory. "She's just a reminder of your mistakes." I had heard those words my whole life, but through the speaker they sounded different. Smaller, meaner, cowardly. For years they had convinced me I exaggerated, that I twisted things, that I was dramatic. But there it was in high definition. No interpretation required. I wasn't crazy. It really was that bad. I leaned back in the chair, pressing my palms into my eyes until sparks burst behind them. Pain rose first. Then something else pushed through it, something steadier. Power. Because if they couldn't deny it, they couldn't control the story anymore. Claire had told me not to do anything tonight except keep it. So I did the practical thing instead. I made copies. Cloud upload. External drive. Email to myself with the subject line, "Do not lose your nerve." Each backup felt like pouring concrete under my feet. By the time I finished, my hands had stopped shaking. I opened a browser. I typed, "Carter Christmas Tree Farm." I had grown up there. I knew every fence post, every muddy patch near the north field, every place my father used to stand when he talked about legacy like it was a sacred inheritance. But I had never seen it the way strangers saw it. Article after article filled the screen. Local family brings holiday magic. 3 siblings preserve father's dream. Heartwarming traditions at the Carter farm. Photos of Jake laughing with customers. My mother arranging garland with saintly patience. Hannah handing hot cider to children. Sunlight caught in her perfect hair. It was almost impressive. They had edited me out of existence so thoroughly that even I started to doubt I'd ever belonged there. They turned themselves into a brand, Claire had said. And brands are fragile. Brands depend on belief. I found videos too. Interviews where Jake talked about values, about togetherness, about how family was everything. I laughed out loud, the sound strange in the small room. If family was everything, then why had I always been nothing? My eyes drifted back to the paused frame of him throwing garbage at me. 2 realities, public and private. One of them was going to lose. Claire called again in the morning, right when the sky began to lighten behind the motel curtains. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "Not really," I admitted. I watched it. And? I searched for the right word. "Clarifying," I said finally. She hummed. "Good. Distance helps. When you're inside abuse, it feels normal. When you step out, it looks insane." I told her about the articles, the marketing, the image. "It's like my childhood got rewritten into an advertisement," I said. "Exactly," she replied. "So here's the question. If that image cracked, what would happen?" I pictured Jake's loans, the expansions he bragged about online, the new attractions, the sponsorships. "They'd panic," I said. Claire didn't hesitate. "Then don't rush. Information first. You need to know what you're actually entitled to." That word hit differently. Entitled, like maybe I wasn't just the screw-up who should be grateful for leftovers. Maybe something had been taken from me. I opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't dared touch in years. Dad's estate. I remembered signing papers at the kitchen table while Lily cried in her bassinet, my mother telling me this was temporary, just to make management easier while I got back on my feet. Back then, I trusted her. Back then, I still thought love came with safety. I started reading. Legal language is designed to exhaust you, to make surrender feel like relief, but I pushed through it, line by line, heart pounding harder with every paragraph. Temporary. That's what she had said. But the word wasn't there. Not once. Control reassigned. Managerial authority transferred. Duration indefinite. My name appeared like a courtesy, not a right. They hadn't helped me. They had erased me. I took screenshots and sent them to Claire. Her reply came fast. Grace. They knew exactly what they were doing. I sat back, staring at the wall. The humiliation of Christmas twisted into something sharper, more focused. The trash bags weren't random cruelty. They were enforcement, a reminder of my place. Except they had miscalculated. Because now I could see the system, and once you see it, you can start to break it. Lily stirred on the bed, rubbing her eyes. Morning, she mumbled. I closed the documents and smiled at her, softening my face, even though inside a revolution had started. Morning, Bug, she yawned. Are we going back there? I crossed the room and sat beside her. Not today, I said. But someday, I added silently. And next time, I wouldn't be walking in as the girl they threw out. I would be walking in with the truth in my pocket. And they were going to learn exactly how expensive that could be. Revolutions don't usually begin with shouting. They begin with paperwork. The morning after I read the inheritance documents, after the fog of betrayal settled into something colder and more useful, I searched for a local attorney who specialized in family and property disputes. My finger hovered over the contact form longer than I want to admit, because clicking send meant this was real. It meant I wasn't going to be the daughter who absorbed damage anymore. It meant I was willing to find out exactly how badly they had played me. And there is a particular terror in asking for the truth when you already suspect it will hurt. I attached the scans. In the subject line I wrote, urgent, possible coercion in estate transfer. I hit send. For a moment nothing happened, obviously. The motel room didn't shake. Lightning didn't strike. Lily kept crunching cereal and watching cartoons like the universe hadn't just tilted. But inside me, something aligned. I had moved from why did they do this to me to what can I do about it? And that is a dangerous transition for the people who benefit from your silence. Claire called while I was still staring at the confirmation email. So? She asked. I did it. She let out a long breath. Good. Now we build the other half. The other half was the story. Because legal justice moves like winter slow, grinding, inevitable if you survive it long enough. But reputation? Reputation moves at the speed of fire, and my family had built their lives out of dry wood. I created a new social media account that afternoon. No last name, no town, no identifying details. Just a simple profile picture of a woman sitting in shadow, and a bio that read, "Survived the holidays. Learning what that cost me." My hands trembled while I uploaded the first image. Not faces. Never faces. Just the trash bags on the floor near my boots, captured from the video. A still life of rejection. I typed, "Ever been thrown away by the people who said they loved you?" Yeah, me too. I didn't hit post. Not yet. Claire had been clear about that. Timing, she told me. You work in marketing. You know the difference between noise and impact. If I released everything right away, it would be a family scandal. But if I built a voice first, it would be a movement. So I saved it to drafts. And for the first time in my life, waiting felt powerful. The lawyer, Mark, responded 2 days later. His email was careful, professional, but there was an undercurrent I recognized immediately. Interest. You may indeed have grounds to challenge this transfer, he wrote. However, cases like this are complex and emotionally charged. If you pursue it, understand they may retaliate socially and financially. I almost laughed. May retaliate. As if they hadn't already. I wrote back. I'm not afraid of them being mean to me. I'm afraid of teaching my daughter that she has to accept it. He agreed to meet. 6 months passed faster than I expected and slower than I wanted. I moved us back to town. Even writing that still feels surreal. I had sworn I would never return. But this time, I wasn't coming back to fit inside their story. I was coming back to rewrite it. 2 streets from the square. I rented a narrow, tired little storefront with peeling paint and crooked blinds. The landlord apologized for the condition. "It needs work," he said. I looked at Lily coloring on the dusty floor and smiled. "So do we," I told him. I found remote work with a marketing firm in the city. Late nights, long hours, every paycheck split between rent, savings, and a quiet fund Mark said we might need if things escalated. I bought secondhand furniture. A used desk, folding chairs. It didn't look like power, but it was. Because it was mine, online, the anonymous account began to breathe. I posted small things at first. Thoughts about estrangement, about mothers who loved appearances more than children, about how often the holidays were performances staged on top of old wounds. People responded. God, did they respond. My inbox filled with strangers telling me stories they had never said out loud. Women, men, adult children, parents, trying to break cycles they barely understood. This happened to me. My mom called my son a burden. I thought I was alone. Every message felt like reinforcement. Like maybe I wasn't crazy. Like maybe what they did had a name. Meanwhile, Jake's presence online grew too. The farm launched new campaigns. Drone shots of snowy fields, warm interviews about legacy, smiling photos of my mother hugging customers like she had never sharpened her love into a weapon. I watched from my tiny office, laptop balanced on a box, fury humming low and constant in my bloodstream. Claire visited one night with cheap takeout and the expression she got when strategy clicked into place. "This is PR," she said, gesturing to Jake's latest video. "They're fortifying." I nodded. "They're scared," I replied. "Good," she said. "So what's phase 2? I looked around my little storefront. At the ring light I'd ordered but hadn't opened yet. At the microphone waiting on the desk. I knew. If they were going to be the heart of Christmas in this town, I was going to be the voice for everyone Christmas had ever hurt. I recorded my first long video that week. No names, no locations, just truth. I told them about the trash bags, about Lily's fingers digging into my coat, about the way humiliation becomes normal when it's served every year with turkey. I ended with a promise, my voice steadier than I felt. "Next Christmas," I said, "I'm not walking back in as the girl they threw away." I leaned closer to the camera. "I'm walking in as the woman who kept the receipts." I uploaded it. Then I sat back and waited. By morning, the numbers had exploded. Views, shares, comments, stacking faster than I could read them. My phone buzzed nonstop. People wanted more. They wanted justice. They wanted the ending. I stared at the screen, heart racing. They thought the confrontation would be the story. They had no idea. The real story was what I was becoming, while my family still believed I was broken. And somewhere out there, in a farmhouse wrapped in lights, they were smiling for cameras, completely unaware that the ground under them had already begun to move. Success has a sound. For my brother, it sounded like drone footage, laughter, sleigh bells, and the constant hum of validation from strangers who believed every word he said about family. For me, success sounded like my phone vibrating across a cheap desk in a narrow storefront while dust floated through a bar of afternoon light. It was Mark. I almost let it go to voicemail. Not because I didn't want to hear what he had to say, but because I had learned that information can rearrange your life in seconds, and I wasn't sure I was ready for another rearrangement. But Lily was in the corner, doing her homework, tongue pressed to the side of her mouth in concentration, trusting me to build a world where nobody threw garbage at her feet. So I answered. "Hi," I said, trying for steady. Mark didn't waste time. "We found something interesting," he began. Interesting, in lawyer language, means explosive. He explained it slowly, clearly, like he was handing me something fragile. The farm had been refinanced the previous year. Jake had taken on a significant loan to expand operations, new attractions, marketing upgrades, seasonal installations. The place looked bigger, shinier, more professional than ever. It was also balanced on a knife edge. "They're making payments," Mark said, "but barely. If their revenue dips at the wrong time, they could default." I leaned back in my chair. Default. The word echoed. Failure. Pressure? Consequences. For once, none of them were pointed at me. "What happens if they default?" I asked. Mark paused, measuring how much hope he should allow into the room. Well, he said carefully, banks don't like uncertainty. If they believe the loan is risky, they sometimes sell the debt. I understood business language. I worked in marketing. I knew what happened when ownership changed hands. My pulse began to hammer. You're saying, I said slowly, someone else could buy what they owe. Yes. Silence stretched between us, huge and electric. I stared at Lily, at the way her pencil moved, at the ordinary miracle of her being alive in my life. And the question came out before I could stop it. Could that someone be me? Mark didn't laugh. That's how I knew it was possible. If you can secure financing, he said, yes. You wouldn't own the farm itself, but you would control the note. And that gives you leverage. Leverage. The most beautiful word I had ever heard. Not revenge. Not destruction. Leverage. The ability to insist on change. After I hung up, I didn't move for a long time. My brain replayed Christmas like it was building a case study. Jake throwing the bags. Mom calling Lily a mistake. Hannah laughing. They had believed they were untouchable. They had believed I would always come back empty-handed. I looked down at my own hands. They weren't empty anymore. Claire came over that night, breathless, eyes bright with the kind of fierce loyalty that makes miracles feel logistical. Tell me everything, she demanded, dropping into the folding chair across from me. When I finished, she leaned back and let out a low whistle. Oh my God, she said. You could own their pressure. I nodded. It scared me how right it felt, but fear and clarity often wear the same coat. What would you do with it? She asked. I didn't answer immediately. Because if I was honest, a small, vicious part of me wanted to burn it all down. I wanted Jake standing in a bank office, sweating. I wanted my mother explaining to reporters how the perfect family collapsed. I wanted them to hurt. But then I imagined Lily watching, and I knew revenge alone would never be enough. I want them to understand, I said finally. I want them to look at her and know they can't treat her like that anymore. Ever. Claire nodded. Then we use it smart, she said. Legal first. Public, if necessary. She took my hand. You don't have to become them to beat them. The numbers came in waves over the next weeks. How much the debt was worth. What percentage could be negotiated. What kind of payment plan I could realistically manage with my income and Claire as a co-signer. I signed documents that made my stomach twist. I asked questions I never thought I'd be brave enough to ask. Every signature felt like stepping deeper into cold water. But underneath the fear was something stronger. I was building armor. When Mark confirmed the transfer had gone through, he said it plainly. You now hold their mortgage. I laughed. Not loud, not triumphant, just stunned. Because the little girl who used to cry in that farmhouse hallway, promising to be better if they would just love her, could never have imagined this version of the future. I wasn't asking anymore. I was deciding. As autumn arrived, my anonymous account crossed into numbers I couldn't fully comprehend. Hundreds of thousands of people waiting for the return. They messaged me every day. Are you going back? Will they face consequences? I read them all. But the most important voice came from the kitchen table one evening while Lily worked on a math problem. Mom? She asked casually. Yeah? Are we going to the farm this Christmas? My pen froze. She watched me carefully, braver now than she had been last year. Last time was bad, she said. But they're still my grandma and uncle and aunt, right? I set the pen down. How do you explain legacy and betrayal and systems of power to a child who still believes apologies can fix things? They're related to us, I said gently, but being family depends on how people treat you. She nodded, absorbing it. If they say sorry, she continued, can they be family again? I met her eyes. Maybe, I said. But this time, we get to decide what's okay. Not them. She seemed satisfied with that. Kids are amazing like that. Give them boundaries, and they can build whole worlds inside them. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, an email arrived. Carter Christmas Farm, season launch. Biggest year yet. I stared at it for a long time. Then I bought 2 tickets. My hands shook as the confirmation loaded, because this was it, not the night they threw me away. The night I walked back in, But I wouldn't be walking in as the woman hoping to be loved. I would be walking in as the woman holding the one thing they respected more than love: power, and they had no idea it already had my name on it. The morning I went back, I dressed like someone attending a funeral, not because I planned to bury them, because I was finally ready to bury the version of me that begged. Lily bounced on the edge of the bed while I zipped her coat, pink cheeks, knitted hat tugged low over her ears. She looked excited in the cautious way children get when they want something to be good, but remember, it might not be. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "Yes," I told her honestly. "Me too," she said, then slipped her hand into mine. "But we can be nervous together." God, I loved her. No manipulation, no performance, just truth. My phone buzzed in my pocket as we stepped outside into the winter air. "Mark, I'll keep this short," he said. "You are fully within your rights to be there. They are current on payments, so nothing drastic happens today unless you choose to escalate. Remember, your goal is balance, not destruction." Balance. I repeated it silently, because rage would be easier. Claire texted next. "Walk like you know something they don't." I smiled. I did. Traffic crawled closer to the farm the way it always did this time of year. Families in SUVs, kids hanging out the windows pointing at the big red sign, music drifting across the fields. Carter Christmas Farm. My last name stretched 20 feet wide, cheerful and clean, as if history hadn't happened there. Lily squeezed my hand tighter as we approached the entrance. "I remember," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But we're different now." I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. It looked exactly like the videos. Garlands looped along fences, staff in coordinated jackets, the scent of pine and sugar and money floating through the air. For a second, my body tried to betray me. It tried to remember how small I used to feel walking across that gravel. It tried to shrink. I didn't let it. I adjusted my shoulders, lifted my chin, and walked forward with my daughter beside me. Jake was near the front gate, laughing with a couple taking selfies. He wore the branded coat, logo stitched over his heart, like credibility could be embroidered. When he saw me, the smile died so fast, it was almost impressive. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered under his breath. The couple glanced between us, confused, then moved away politely, sensing weather. Jake stepped closer. "You actually came back?" he asked, voice low, already irritated, already assuming authority. "Yes," I said calmly. "We bought tickets." Behind him, my mother had gone still. Hannah stood near the cocoa stand, phone halfway raised, frozen mid-content. No one rushed to hug Lily. Of course they didn't. Jake leaned in. "We told you last year you're not welcome. I'm not doing drama in front of customers." The old me would have apologized right then. The old me would have whispered, "Please." But the old me didn't own his mortgage. "That's funny," I said quietly, "because your farm is very welcome in my portfolio." He blinked. "What?" I took one step closer, enough for him to see there was no tremor in me anymore. "I own your debt, Jake." He stared at me like I had started speaking another language. "The bank sold your note," I continued, conversational, almost kind. "The person who decides how flexible your future is." I tapped my chest lightly. Hi. His face drained. Not anger, not embarrassment, fear. Real, immediate, practical fear. My mother rushed forward, heels slipping in the gravel. "Grace," she hissed, "what are you doing? Don't ruin this day." I reached into my bag and handed Jake the folded letter Mark had prepared. Official, boring, devastating. He scanned it. I watched comprehension arrive in stages, like doors slamming shut behind his eyes. "This is ridiculous," he whispered. Hannah came closer now, color gone from her influencer glow. "You can't just show up and threaten us," she said. I shook my head. "I'm not threatening you," I replied. "I'm explaining reality." Jake tried bluster next. "You wouldn't tank the farm," he said. "Dad loved this place. Lily loves this place." The move was almost admirable. Use love as a leash. But I had cut that leash months ago. "I don't have to tank anything," I said evenly. "All I have to do is exist." And maybe make a few phone calls explaining what kind of people are behind the wholesome brand sponsors are investing in. I held his eyes. Your behavior does the rest. People continued walking past us, laughing, carrying cocoa, completely unaware that tectonic plates were shifting 10 feet away. Hannah lowered her voice urgently. We can talk privately. Good, I said, because despite everything, I wasn't here to humiliate them. I was here to correct them. We moved toward a quieter row of trees, Lily glued to my side. I could feel her heartbeat through her mitten. Jake crumpled the letter in his fist. What do you want? He demanded. There it was. Not how are you, not are you okay. What do you want? I almost laughed. I want something very simple, I said. I crouched slightly, so I was closer to Lily's height, then looked back at them. You are going to look my daughter in the eye, I told them, and apologize for what you said last Christmas. Clearly, no excuses. Silence dropped heavy between us. My mother stiffened. You're blackmailing us, she whispered. No, I said gently. You already used her as a weapon. I'm just making sure she also gets to witness accountability. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Your choice, I added. Private apology or public truth. I saw the moment Hannah understood. She had seen my anonymous account. She knew exactly how many people were listening. Jake knew it too. And fear is louder than pride. Lily looked up at me. Mom? She asked softly. I squeezed her hand. It's okay, I told her. I wasn't sure what they would choose yet, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. They couldn't throw us away anymore. Because this time, I had walked in holding the leverage. The wind moved softly through the trees, carrying music and laughter from the main path, the ordinary happiness of people who had come here for something simple, a memory, a photo, a story they could tell later about the perfect Christmas farm. 10 steps away from them, my entire history stood in a tight, furious circle. Jake's jaw flexed. Hannah's eyes darted toward the crowd, calculating risk the way she always did when reputation was on the line. My mother looked at Lily, then at the phone in my hand, and for the first time since I was a child, I saw uncertainty crack through her authority. She had always relied on one truth. I needed her, but I didn't anymore, and she had no idea how to stand in a world where that wasn't true. Lily's mitten squeezed mine. I could feel how small she was, how big this moment might become in her memory one day. I didn't want revenge to be what she carried from it. I wanted safety. I wanted repair. But repair requires honesty, and my family had spent decades treating honesty like an inconvenience. Last chance, I said quietly. You apologize to her. Clearly. No blaming me, no jokes, no rewriting it. Jake swore under his breath. My mother inhaled sharply, the sound thin and wounded, as if she were the one being cornered. You're humiliating us, she whispered. I met her eyes. You humiliated a child. The words landed, heavy, undeniable. She looked away first. Of course she did. Then, slowly, stiffly, my mother lowered herself to her knees in front of Lily. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't cinematic. Her joints protested. Her coat fell awkwardly. Her pride fought every inch of the way down. But she knelt. I started recording. Not because I wanted evidence, because Lily deserved to have a memory that ended differently. My mother cleared her throat. Lily, she began, and her voice shook in a way I had never heard before. What I said last year was wrong. You are not a mistake. You are my granddaughter, and you belong here. Lily didn't move. She just watched her carefully, the way children watch adults when they're trying to determine if words are real. Jake shifted beside us, uncomfortable, exposed. He rubbed the back of his neck. I shouldn't have said you weren't family, he muttered. I was angry at your mom. I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. Hannah swallowed. I tried to be funny, she added, eyes glassy now. It wasn't. I'm sorry. The world didn't explode. No music swelled. Just 3 adults standing in the wreckage of their own behavior, finally forced to look at it. Lily's voice came out small but steady. Do you mean it? And God help me, I held my breath. Because children know the difference between performance and truth. My mother hesitated. Only a fraction of a second, but I saw it. Then she nodded. Yes, she said. I mean it. I believed she wanted to. For now, that was enough. I stopped recording and slid the phone back into my pocket. Good, I said gently. Step 1. Jake blinked. Step 1, he repeated. I stood up straight. The girl who would have taken the apology and called it a miracle was gone. In her place stood a woman who understood systems. You don't get to treat someone like trash for decades, I told him, and then wipe the slate clean because you managed to choke out sorry. Hannah stiffened. What else do you want? She asked, already exhausted by consequences. I looked at them, really looked at them. I saw fear. I saw resentment. I saw the dawning awareness that the hierarchy they relied on had collapsed. Accountability, I said, and I pulled the envelope from my bag. Inside were the papers Mark had prepared. Clear, legal, unemotional. Acknowledge coercion in the inheritance transfer. Restore my voting rights and ownership share. Establish a percentage of seasonal profits into a protected fund for Lily. A zero-tolerance clause regarding harassment or defamation. It wasn't punishment. It was structure. Jake scanned the first page and barked a humorless laugh. You're insane. No, I replied calmly. I'm done being convenient. My mother read more slowly. I watched her eyes move across the lines, watched the understanding grow heavier with each paragraph. You're taking everything, she whispered. I shook my head. I'm taking back what was mine, I said. The rest is interest. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. Pride has ruined better people. But then she looked past me at the farm, at the lines of customers, at the future she had curated so carefully, and she understood what refusal would cost. Fear won. It usually does. Where? She asked. We signed in the cramped office behind the gift shop, carols playing faintly through the wall. Lily stayed outside with Claire, who had driven in quietly, just in case I needed someone to witness history. Jake's signature dug into the paper like he wanted to wound it. Hannah wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother's hand trembled. When they finished, Mark gathered the documents, satisfied. It's done, he said to me. Equal owner, decision-making authority, words I had never imagined belonging to my life. Outside, the sky had deepened toward evening. Lights blinked on across the property, warm and golden. Lily ran toward me. Are we okay? She asked. I knelt and held her face in my hands. We're more than okay, I told her. We can't be thrown away anymore. Her smile spread slow and bright. Because we belong? I kissed her forehead. No, I said softly, because we choose to. Behind us, my family stepped out of the office looking stunned, smaller somehow. They thought the worst part of today had been kneeling. They were wrong. The worst part was learning I would never kneel again. Power is strange. When you spend your whole life without it, you imagine it will feel loud when it finally arrives. Victorious, explosive. Trumpets, maybe. It didn't. It felt quiet. Like the moment after a storm, when you walk outside and realize the house is still standing. After the papers were signed, after Mark packed the documents into his briefcase and gave me a small, almost proud nod, the farm continued as if nothing historic had happened. Children ran past with candy canes. Parents negotiated tree sizes. Music floated through speakers mounted in the rafters. Christmas didn't pause for justice. But I had changed, and that meant the place would have to change too. For the first few days, my siblings treated me like an unexploded device someone had accidentally left in the lobby. They were polite, careful, afraid of setting me off. I wasn't interested in exploding. I was interested in building something better. The first staff meeting I attended, you could feel the tension vibrating in the folding chairs. Seasonal workers watched me with curiosity. They had heard rumors. People always do. I introduced myself, simply. Hi, I'm Grace. I'm one of the owners. The word landed differently in my mouth than I expected. Not triumphant, just true. I told them a few things were going to change. No more under-the-table wages. No more last-minute schedule punishments. No more relatives speaking to employees like they were disposable. If we were going to sell the feeling of belonging, we were going to practice it. Some of the staff looked relieved. Others looked stunned. My mother looked like someone swallowing something sour. But she didn't argue, because she couldn't. At night, I sat in my small office, my office now, and read through policies, contracts, budgets. I asked questions my younger self would have been too frightened to voice. Where was the money going? Why were certain vendors always chosen? Who benefited from decisions made for the family? Power is education. The more I learned, the less mythical my brother became. He wasn't brilliant. He was just unchallenged. Online, the anonymous account had become impossible to contain. People were desperate for the ending. They wanted triumph, exposure, fireworks. I owed them truth, so I gave it carefully. First, I posted the old footage again. Blurred faces, altered voices, but unmistakable words. Then I followed it with a new video. No shadows, no disguise. Just me, sitting in the office with the farm faintly visible behind the window. "Hi," I said. "My name is Grace. I'm the woman from the trash bag story." I told them what had happened after. The apology, the negotiation, the signatures. I explained leverage, boundaries, the difference between revenge and repair. I watched the numbers climb in real time. Thousands, tens of thousands. People weren't just entertained. They were relieved because they had been waiting to see if someone like them could actually win. Of course, people in town started whispering. Some recognized the farm from details I hadn't meant to reveal. Some guessed correctly anyway. Jake was furious. Hannah went into crisis management mode, posting long captions about growth and learning and complicated family dynamics. My mother avoided the comments entirely. Not my problem. The only review I cared about lived in my kitchen. Lily changed in ways that broke my heart and healed it at the same time. She walked differently at the farm now, shoulders back, voice louder. She ordered cocoa without looking at me first, as if permission had relocated from my face to her own spine. One afternoon, I heard her explaining to another kid where the best trees were. "My mom helps run this place," she said casually. No hesitation, no apology. Belonging reclaimed. On Christmas Eve, the last of the visitors drifted out under a sky the color of deep blue glass. Snow began to fall in lazy, forgiving flakes, softening edges, settling on branches, turning the fields into something almost holy. I stood near the tree line, hands in my coat pockets, breathing in pine and cold air and the strange sweetness of survival. My mother approached slowly. She looked older than she had a year ago. Smaller, too, without the armor of certainty she used to wear. "You've changed this place," she said. Maybe it was a compliment. Maybe it was an accusation. "Maybe," I replied. "Or maybe I just stopped letting it change me." She nodded, eyes shining. For a while, we watched Lily chase snow with a group of kids, her laughter carrying across the field like something newly possible. "I don't know how to fix what I did," my mother said finally. I appreciated the honesty. "You can't," I told her gently. "You can only choose who you're going to be next." She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "Do you hate me?" she asked. The old reflex rose instantly, the urge to comfort her, to minimize my pain so she could breathe easier. But love without truth had almost destroyed me. "I don't hate you," I said. "I just love my daughter more than I love protecting your feelings." It was the most adult sentence I had ever spoken to her. She cried quietly, and this time, I didn't rush to wipe the tears away. "Will you stay?" she asked after a moment. "Will you keep working here with us?" I looked at the lights, the people, the possibility of the place. "For now," I said. "But understand something. I'm here because it can be good, not because I need you. If it becomes what it was again, I will leave, and I will take my share with me." She nodded. No argument. Growth sometimes looks like silence. Later, driving home, Lily leaned her head against the window and sighed in that satisfied, bone-deep way kids do after a day that turned out okay. "It felt different this year," she murmured. "How?" I asked. She thought about it. "Like we belonged," she said. I smiled into the dark road ahead. "We did," I told her. "Because we decided we did. The year before, my brother thought he had written the end of my story. But humiliation is not an ending. Sometimes it's an origin, and I made sure none of them would ever forget it. What stays with me most about that Christmas isn't the trash bags or even the words. It's the moment I realize the people who hurt you only keep their power as long as you keep asking them for permission to exist. The night I walked out holding Lily's hand, I thought I had lost my family. What I didn't understand yet was that I had actually found something far more important: my boundary, my voice, and the responsibility to show my daughter that love should never require humiliation. This story isn't really about revenge. It's about clarity, about what happens when someone decides the cycle stops here. If you saw yourself in any part of my journey, the fear, the doubt, the quiet planning, the courage it takes to stand back up, I want you to know you're not alone. There are more of us than we were ever allowed to believe. And if stories about reclaiming dignity, facing betrayal, and rebuilding power speak to your heart, stay with us. Subscribe to Revenge Tale Society and walk the next story with me. Because sometimes hearing how someone else survived is how we learn that we can too.